G'day everyone, welcome to another episode of the Alton Edit. My name is Jordie Hansen and I'm sitting with the guy that's normally sitting here, Mattsy, the Silly Swagman. How's it going, dude? Welcome to my pad.
Thank you very much.
We should do like an episode of Cribs or something.
We should. I think we should do that. You should just wear that as like a big diaper or something. But yeah, right?
A diaper, dude. Why is that?
I don't know.
Why is that the clothing item you thought of? I love it, and I would do it. Just this bit straight over the front. Anyway, all right. Oh. Let's get into it.
All right. Go on.
Come on, bud.
Yeah.
Fire up. Right. This is a professional interview.
Yeah. Go on.
So, welcome, mate.
Thank you.
It's, last time, obviously, I was here. I was sitting there and you were interviewing me and you've interviewed many other people and you've done a fantastic job of it.
Thank you.
But I couldn't help but watch and go, man, Mattsy's got a way better story than I do. I spoke to the guys at Alton and said I'd like to interview Mattsy, and because I think you've got a cool story to tell, man. Obviously, we've been friends for a little while now.
Yeah.
And I know small parts of it, but you are actually quite a reserved character in your story. And
yeah.
And I think it's something that should be shared, dude, because you have lived a really, really cool life.
No.
Yeah, yes. And I think it's important. I think I would like the viewers to get to know you better. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
So obviously, for those of you that don't know, if you don't, you must have been living under a rock. Mattsy has a YouTube channel called The Silly Swagman.
The Silly Swagman, yes.
Run people through it. What do you do?
So, The Silly Swagman is a YouTube channel. I've got an Instagram page as well. It's mostly just like outdoor hiking, a lot of like off the beaten track hiking and camping. Anywhere from just like an overnighter to like maybe 2-3 nights most. And I just sort of share how I feel like while I'm out there in the outdoors and like beautiful sunsets and stuff. And yeah, I don't know, talk a little bit about, not necessarily about mental health as a whole, but like just how I feel within society compared to my experiences out in the bush. That's sort of the gist of the channel, I guess.
I think that's what maybe sets you apart, is that sort of sense of we get to know exactly what you're thinking.
Yeah.
And it's very unfiltered.
It just fires out of them.
Which I love it, dude, but it comes out like poetry at times. Like the way do you script it, or is it just coming out?
No, it just comes out. So sometimes I do like the monologue, like a narration over the top.
Yeah.
Every now and again I'll do one. And that's usually something that I'll only do one if I've already had something sort of bubbling away in my head that I've just had going on in life that I've wanted to sort of vent out, or maybe something about the trip sort of brought it to the surface. And then I'll write that literally in like 5 minutes before I add it into the edit.
Cool, man.
So it's not something that I've pre-planned or anything like that.
Well, we'll come back to me fangirling over you, as I have done for years and years. We'll come back to that. Go to the start, dude. So tell us, where did you grow up? Go from there. Go right back.
I grew up in Sydney, on the northern beaches there. I grew up in Mona Vale.
Must be nice.
So most people know sort of Manly or Palm Beach or something. Yeah, really nice place. And it was a little bit different too when I grew up. So I'm 36 now. You could sort of ride your bikes everywhere and not worry too much about like cars and traffic. Maybe not on the main road necessarily, but these days it is like a completely different place. It's so overpopulated, like densely populated. But it was a real cool place to grow up as a kid, riding bikes, skateboards, surfing. Yeah, really, really cool area. And then you had like national parks right around you as well. Yeah, like a real big sort of boating, fishing, yachting area around Pittwater. So yeah, that's where I grew up, man. I spent most of my life on the northern beaches. Yeah. I would say, yeah.
Did you, those national parks you mentioned, did you grow up camping and hiking, or is this something that you came into later?
Yeah, so I grew up camping with the family, like doing the classic sort of road trips. We had, I don't even know what it was. It was a Toyota van, four-wheel drive of some sort. Sick. I remember Mum hated it, Dad loved it, I loved it. And So we were always camping. Dad was a keen spearo and fisherman, more so spearo because he would always get fish when he was spearing. So I would tag along for like little canoeing and fishing adventures, and I definitely like had this like love for the outdoors or fondness for the outdoors from a young age, with Dad taking me along on these little adventures. But I didn't even really know what hiking was until much later in life. So yeah, for those national parks around me, it was mostly going fishing with Dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, so talk us through school life. Did you enjoy school?
School, it's a weird one. Primary school, I still remember primary school. Loved it because what are you doing really? 1 + 1, and then just hanging with your mates and shooting marbles. And
Did you actually shoot marbles?
Absolutely. Marble season.
Dude.
Yeah, dude. And then high school was different. So, oh mate, yeah, I didn't. Nah, it was pretty rough actually at high school. I think I was always one of those people that could like make friends like wherever you go, but I also I was one of the people that looks out for your mates and would stand up for your mates. So high school was like very controversial with that side of things, but then with certain subjects, like I just wasn't absorbing a lot of the information because I didn't find it interesting. Like maths, I was really bad at maths. It wasn't necessarily that I wasn't smart. If I wasn't interested in it, it was really hard for me to focus. So I really struggled. I wanted to leave after year 10 and join the army actually, but I got sort of like, had that talked out of me, saying just finish year 11 and 12, family. Yeah. Yeah, for obvious reasons.
Yeah. Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
So, and then you did go on to join the army. Is that what happened straight after school, or was there a gap?
No, there was a gap. I didn't actually enlist into the army until I was like 26, 25, 26.
Okay, what did you do in that interim period?
Had no idea what I was doing, really.
Yeah.
I've always said now, looking back, if I had known what hiking was back then, I reckon it would have completely changed like the trajectory of my life. Not to say like I have regrets, but I think things would have been way different. You finish high school, you're teenagers, you're all going to the pub and all that. And like a lot of people, you just sort of get caught up in that world of just like you're hanging out for a Thursday or a Friday night, going and sinking beers and you can just sort of get lost.
It's dangerous, eh?
It's dangerous, and house parties and all that. Yeah. And before you know it, like if you haven't already got like a set career path, you can just find yourself floating. Yeah. And I've always been one of those people that like, I've always felt like I'm destined for something, not like greatness, but like I know that I'm going to find a path and it's not going to be a normal one. I've always known that about myself, or felt that way about myself. And that makes it really difficult because it stops you just committing to something that all your mates are doing. Like I remember always thinking, I wish that I was just super happy picking up a trade. Like all my mates who are now owning their own utes, like maybe not buying houses, but you know what I mean? Like
some
being
of them
successful.
Are, though, eh?
Some of them are. And yeah, so I was just working like sort of random jobs, doing labouring jobs as well. Worked at Woolies when I was in high school and out for a couple of years. And started an apprenticeship as an electrician. That was really, that was me just going, I've got to do something. Like I'm feeling quite lost here. I've just got to commit to something. And I started doing that. I got into my second year and I just knew, I was like, even if I finish this 4 years, I'm not going to continue this after the apprenticeship's done. But everyone tells you the same stuff, like finish the apprenticeship, finish the apprenticeship. And you're like, I know, but even if I do, I'm not going to continue it, and I'm not going to come back to it because I'm really not interested in it. Yeah. And so you sort of got this voice in your head telling you one thing, and you've got everybody around you telling you another. And I found myself just so stuck in life because of that, all the contradictions. So anyway, I came home one day just really, it's not that I was unhappy doing the electrical work. Like I wasn't like depressed or anything. Like, what am I going to do? I was just like, this isn't it. I need to quickly switch paths and work out what it is. And I got home and one of the like enlistment ads comes on with like, yeah, travel and blah. That obviously didn't trick me, but yeah, for the army. And I went, that's right. And everything just bubbled straight up. I jumped straight on the computer and I applied and started the process right there and then.
How interesting, dude.
Yeah.
So at what age is this?
To be honest, I think that was 24.
Yeah, mid-20s.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, and then you. So what's the process there? So you enlist, and then like a lot of people, like I didn't know until you told me. But what's the process then from that point? Because you obviously started to climb a couple of notches there throughout your career in the army.
Yeah.
Tell me that process. Run me through the process of applying and then where you ended up in the army.
Okay. I could get things wrong just because, like, honestly, 5 years in the army, that's how long I was in. It feels like 15. So a lot happens. And so, like, details, forgive me if I get anything wrong here. But the recruitment process was pretty much, you can apply online. I'm sure you could call up too, but you apply online and they book you in for something that was, or probably still is, called a U session. And you go in, and I think it's mostly they sort of do a brief. And there's like just a whole bunch of like random awkward looking people like in a room just like waiting.
Like this,
like, you're sort of like, are we going to get screamed at already even though we're not in? But there's people in uniform walking around, so you're really confused. And it's pretty, it feels intense sort of. It's just a weird environment straight away because they're talking like military personnel. And I think there's like interviews and stuff and they sort of talk you through what to expect next. I think you do a bit of a basic fitness assessment too. I can't remember. There's a couple times where you go there, and I can't remember if you do this all in the first one or the second one. Anyway, you do like basic fitness tests, which is like push-ups, sit-ups, and then like a beep test. Yeah. And
Still got it.
and then you do like, they check if you're colorblind, they check your sight, your vision, your hearing, and all this stuff.
So then they let you in. And then you spent how long in that role?
So yeah, there's like multiple steps to that. But basically, once I was in, you go back to that same place. You hop on a bus,
My God,
and you go to Kapuka. And it's funny, you're all there, and like your parents or whatever family or friends are with you, saying goodbye to you, and then like there's some sergeant lady just like out of nowhere just starts screaming at you all to get on the bus, and you're like, oh, it's happened right in front of everybody. Okay. They're not even waiting until we're out of the eyes, and you hop on the bus. And then Kapuka's 3 months, and that's basically where everybody goes, regardless of what role in the army they're going for. And then after that 3 months, you then go straight to whatever your employment training is going to be. So for me, it was the School of Infantry. So you learn all your infantry tactics, weapon systems, and everything there. And then that's 3 months, and then you get posted to whatever battalion you're going to. So I went to 5RAR, which is up in Darwin, and so it's pretty long process before you even get posted.
Ages, dude. You got to really be committed.
You have to be committed, and so people learn really quickly. So Kapuka's really funny because you start off with, I could be wrong. I think it's like 40, 50 people in the platoon, maybe even a bit less. And usually, or I know it was the case for us, towards the end, you end up merging with another platoon because you've both lost so many people who are just like, I am out of here.
Yeah.
I want none of this. Because Kapuka, like, people have different opinions on it, but it is like a hell of a place to be for just someone who's just sort of walked in off the street.
Yeah, dude.
It'll rattle you. The best way I described it was like someone picked up my world. It was like a mouse ball, right? And just threw it down the staircase. That's what it felt like. And we were in a stag platoon too, so it's only guys there. So you definitely get treated differently. They can say a lot more things and whatever, you know what I mean?
Say it, but beep out the bits that you shouldn't say. You can't even say it.
Dude,
You can't even
it's hectic. It is hectic. We had a guy, it's going to take way too long, I shouldn't get stuck on this too long, but we had a guy, okay, so you get in there.
Give it to us, come on.
So you hop off the bus straight away there. It feels way too calm. And you're like, hang on, someone screamed when we first hopped on the bus. Someone hops on the bus as you pull up and he's like, yeah, you're going to hop off, you're going to grab your bags from underneath, then you're going to go into this building. And like, that's it. So you're like, what happens when I go into the building? Like, so you get down, you're like looking for your bag and you're just looking around at everybody, just like some guys trying to act cool, some guys just like their minds are racing.
Peaking,
and you're just
yeah.
like, I'm a very observant person,
Yeah.
and I felt quite chilled out. And I was like, oh my God, this is insanity. So I wheel into this room, and I think you left your bag out the front or something. And I'm just like, it had been so chilled in that minute of being there, that when I walked into this room, it just like was like, what's going on? Everybody that walked in before me was now facing me, like really well spaced apart, just like hands by sides, like robots. And I was like, what happened? And no one said anything to me. So I was like, how did they know where to stand? Seriously, I was like, it was like all of them walked in and got told where to go because of how they were spaced out and how they were looking. And I was like, what? Dude, it was the staff members, they must love this moment. Because I walked in, I would have walked in like this, and just gone like, look left, right, left, right at staff, like, are they going to tell me where to stand? No, okay. I guess I'll just fill a space somewhere. And I just walked over to a gap and I did the full like look around at everybody else. I'm like, why is no one looking at me anymore? Like I was just talking to that guy on the bus and I was like, I guess I'll just do this too. And it just stood there real weird.
And you're like, check one place. Oh, I won't
then-
stand here. I'll check, maybe I'll stand there.
And then you just get to watch everybody else have the same experience. You're like, oh, I'm not looking at them.
Oh, this is great.
Yeah.
Dude.
And then they do a bit of a roll call and, you know, they call out your name, you're going to go with this, like, section commander kind of thing. And then you go outside again. And again, really chilled out. He's like, yeah, follow me. Gives you a little run through of the building.
And then you're naked.
Oh, I'm getting nervous talking about this. And then he's like, seriously, this is how it works. He goes, all right. He goes, yeah, you guys just go in there. Your name will be on the door. Just find your room. I'll be back in a minute. Then, and we're just like, we're all like, ooh, this is too calm. What happened? Like, this is weird. I don't like the way he said, I'll be back in a minute. Like, what do we do till then? So anyway, everyone's casually at this point, walking down the hallway, trying to find their name on the wall. And everyone starts disappearing into rooms. And I'm like, I'm not seeing my name. And at the end of the hallway, there's a guy standing there, just like, rests with his like feet apart, hands behind his back, just looking straight ahead. And every time you come near him, he would just like make a little remark like, you lost, or something like that. And you're like, not even
like
say,
a
and you
bad
wouldn't even
dream.
say anything back to you, but no, all good. And then before I know it, it's just me and one other guy. And we're just like, and I stop him and I'm like, dude, I'm like, you not seeing your name? And he goes, no, dude. And he's like full freak out. I'm like, he's standing in front of our door. I'm like, there's more doors past him. I'm like, he's standing in front of our door. It's a test. And he's like, nah. He's like, you reckon? I'm like, dude, 100%. And I'm like, okay, we just got to go. So we get up to him and he's standing there and he's like, can I help you? And I'm like, you don't even know how to say it. I'm like, I'm pretty sure my name's on that door there kind of thing. And he's like, why don't you look? And I'm like, yep, nah, of course, yeah. Anyway, I walk into the room first and I had someone go through reserves beforehand. And so they told me, I was like, what can you tell me? They're like, not much. All I'll say is whatever you do, don't put anything on the bed. Don't put anything on the bed. So I walk into this room and I turn right. I can't remember if our names were on something or you just pick one. But I walk in and I turn right and I see the other guy just walk in, like fly in behind me, and I see his suitcase just go like this. Like slow-mo up through the air, lands on the bed, and I'm just like, and before you know it, all three section commanders run in and they like rip his bloody like bag and throw it into the hallway. His shit is everywhere. His clothes are everywhere. And they're like, dude, all three of them just screaming in his face, like spit going everywhere. I'm just there like, oh my God, in the corner of this room, just like, oh, what is happening right now? And then we're all lined up with our backs against the walls in the hallway, and you're staring at the person opposite you in the hallway. And this dude was a young guy, Kai or something. I think he was like 17, and he was like basically crying.
Oh,
his
no.
eyes like red, and you have to look basically at each other. I'm like, oh, I can't. This guy's making this situation worse because he's crying. So now I feel like this is way more intense. And they're like walking up and down the hallway, just screaming, dude, just screaming and like right in your face, and like, dude, they look like they're about to jump out of their own skin. And then we hear this poof, and this guy's passed out on the ground.
What?
And I'm like, we all like look, and they're like, don't you like turn around? Did we tell you to move? And so you're like, oh my God, someone's dead. Someone just died on the ground. and then you're listening to them, and the secco's all like turn their feet all squeak, and they're walking, squeaking, walking down towards him, and you hear like, hey, you okay? And then you hear this like, well, get up. And he's like, get back on the wall. He goes, well, I'm like, he just passed out and he's just told him just to stay back on the wall. And then anyway, they start coming up and they're like, right. And one of them goes like, oh, like 3 minutes. He goes, that's a record. And I'm just like, this is mental. Screaming again, 2 seconds later, poof, the guy passes out again.
Dude, what is wrong with
and
this guy?
They come and they go, he just passed out again? Yeah. Oh my God. So they go over and they're like, get up. You okay? Yeah. You sure you're okay? Yeah. Okay, go lay on that bed. Goes in, lays on the bed, and then they just continue the day.
Don't you lay on the bed?
Yeah, that's what I was waiting for. Oh, mate.
Dude, that
Chaos.
is amazing.
Yeah.
Like, I've heard a few stories from you around a campfire, but I've not heard that one. So, like, it just goes to show how many stories you would have, which we probably don't get time to get into them all. But I would love to. But is there a reason that you don't share more of these stories on your channels, like socials and YouTube?
Yeah, weird. It's funny. I was only thinking about that yesterday for some reason. It wasn't even because I knew this interview was happening. So within the army, I think across the board, but especially with the infantry, I mean, obviously with the special forces community, but especially within the infantry, it's sort of, I don't even know what the word is, like bad juju to post, even just like photos and stuff. Like we all do like a couple here and there just for memory's sake or whatever it is. But like I was in a bit over 5 years and I can like count the amount of photos that I've got like stored on my computer. Like there's maybe like 15 or 20 of them, you know what I mean? And maybe 3 videos. And there's just this bad juju of like, it's not cool to post things.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that stems from like leadership being like, don't post things because we can't have it all getting out sort of thing of like tactics and weapon systems and whatnot. But I think it's also just like a mentality of soldiers that you don't do it for the clout, you don't do it to impress anybody. I think it's definitely a mentality thing. Like, yeah, it's you're there to be professional, even though you're all larrikins. So yeah, I think it's the same. I don't overshare the stories either, but also it's way more exciting talking about that stuff with the guys I served with.
Sure.
It's hard to explain.
Because they can,
they relate.
I mean, I get it. I'm pretty tough too. But, I get it. So you can bounce back and forward with stories and and you don't talk about that stuff even when cameras are away. You don't talk about that stuff unless I ask you. Like I have to really ask you.
It's weird.
Sometimes then I have to pry. Like you don't. And so that's interesting. Was that a funny transition going from such a private world to then, the transition of filming what you do then for fun and filming your inner feelings and letting the world into your life? Was that weird?
No, that's a good point though. But it wasn't, because I feel like I've always like the silence about the service is like a completely unrelated thing. It's not like a who I am. I don't do it because of like, I don't like to talk and share things. So I feel like I've always been quite like open about everything else in my life with friends and stuff like that. So, and I guess I know that talking about things can help other people because it works vice versa, you know what I mean? So opening up in my videos, it wasn't like a weird transition or anything like that. It was just me being me.
So then the transition from the army, you left the army, but you didn't go straight into filming YouTube videos, did you?
No, it wasn't too long after, but it wasn't right away. I had the idea. I used to watch a lot of like the Canadian and American YouTube channels doing outdoor stuff when I was in the army.
Oh, yeah.
So you'd be there like getting your gear ready for like field or whatever.
Yeah.
And I would just have the videos playing in the background.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed it because you didn't necessarily have to be watching it step by step. You were just listening to the sounds of the outdoors and looking up every now and again. And I thought, I would really like to do that, because I'd always been into cameras and stuff, but I never knew what to film. I feel like a lot of YouTubers say the same thing. I wanted to do something at some point in my life, but I just never knew what it was until they started doing like filming camping and stuff.
That's interesting. So then that transition you made, do you think there's do you bring a part of the military into your channel? Do you think there's any crossovers? Like, you've told me a lot of hectic hiking stories where you guys are carrying some stuff you shouldn't be carrying like for way too long. Like, is there any relation there?
Do you mean in terms of like how I, like...
How did you bring the army into your YouTube? Is there any correspondence, or was it very separate?
It was just a natural thing. Like, I definitely didn't come in going, hey guys, I was in the infantry. I'm a bad boy. Here's some cool outdoor stuff. Like, I've got a lot of humility. Like, I think it's pretty obvious. I got a lot of humility, and I never, even though I like did quite well in the army, I never felt always deserving of it. I don't know, you have moments where you're like, yeah, I made it here. Yes, I worked bloody hard. But then you're also like, you still look at the SF community and go like, oh, a whole other level. But you might have had a chance of getting there, and you would have had a different opinion on it. I've always been like that, so I've nearly forgotten exactly what the question was.
So, well, that's basically then, so you went into YouTubing. How did you start? What did you start with?
So, sorry, in terms of the military stuff, like, no, it was never like I didn't bring it into the YouTube channel like on purpose. There were things that I was saying that I didn't even realize were like, it was lingo from my time in the army. Till people were commenting, oh, I knew you must have been in the infantry because of what you're saying. And I was like, oh, I didn't even realize I was saying things like that.
I get that a bit too.
Yeah. So no, everything that's sort of military-wise in the channel or in the videos is just sort of like, I guess it's just stuff that I've dragged in, not really thinking about it. But as for the content, when I first left the army, I knew I just wanted a bit of a break. Decked out a van. Me and my partner at the time, we did like a 3-month road trip. And during that time, I'd still been thinking about the YouTube channels of the people that I watched in America and stuff. And I was aware of Scotty. We had like chatted a little bit on Instagram and stuff. So I was like, I think I want to try doing that. I'd love to do a bushcraft course though. So when I got back to Sydney after the road trip, I booked in a bushcraft course, and that like cemented it. I was like, I love being out here.
Sick.
Like, it felt sitting around the campfire with everyone, even though you don't have a campfire in the army, it was the same like sort of like family sort of feeling in the outdoors. And I was like, I've got to do this. This is what I have to do to be happy.
Sick, dude. Yeah. That's cool. And so then how did the switch go to documenting it?
I can't even remember what my first video was. Just, I already had a camera. It was like a real entry-level Canon 200D, and I just packed my pack, and I just walked out into a state forest and just filmed me basically like setting up the Alton tarp. And
was the first video that?
Yeah, and I more or less sort of roughly camped how I would have in the infantry, minus like getting yelled at and being out in the rain if it was raining.
That's interesting.
And I just kept it sort of simple and stuff that I'd seen on YouTube channels before.
That's cool, dude.
Yeah.
It's really cool. I remember I've been lucky enough to watch you grow, and we connected early on. I really enjoyed watching the rise, dude. Like, all of a sudden, I remember one day just flicking onto your socials and your YouTube and going, whoa, I've always liked him. When did this many people like him?
Yeah, there was like a
crazy.
big jump at some point.
Yeah. When was that? Do you know when that was and why?
I have ideas. So I'm pretty sure like the big jump was...
Take notes, folks.
Yeah, take notes. Was around the time I went out to the snow. So the year prior to that, I went out with Scotty. Scotty's gone walking out into...
Do a snow trip? I'm just noting this down for myself.
Do a snow trip with Scotty.
Yeah.
And we just went for one night in a pretty cool area, but it wasn't like hectic to get to. It was like quite easy to get to, but it was a beautiful valley, right? And I just loved it because it was so different. I just loved it. I went, okay, I'm going to come back next year. So then when I was preparing for this trip, I was trying to work out an easier way of managing everything, because you go away for a few days and then it takes you a few days to edit it, but things happen in between. You've still got to be a partner, you've still got to be a friend, a family member and all this stuff. So much time goes into it. So I was like, maybe I'll go to the snow and I'll go for like a week and I'll just stay out in the snow for a week and just move my location. and then do a few videos.
I remember that one.
So I ended up only getting 3 videos, whereas I thought I would get 4, but I ended up getting sick while I was out there.
That's right.
And it was rough.
But I enjoyed that because it was real and it was raw.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like staged or...
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was cool.
So I feel like those videos, because they came out relatively like one after the other, and they were like quite different to what you were sort of seeing, I guess, from other channels maybe at the time in Australia anyway. A lot people were clicking on it and watching it. And I think it was good because the people like overseas, it was like summer for them. So they were like, ooh, snow, let's watch some snow.
Cool, good thinking, yeah, right.
And I feel like Instagram, because I was posting the snow photos, had a similar effect.
Yeah.
And I just read this book. I think it's called like just YouTube or YouTube algorithm or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like one of the guys who I think sort of started YouTube.
Interesting.
Maybe. I can't remember now. But really, really good book. You can't apply all of it to like outdoor YouTube channels.
Do you know what it's called?
The book?
Yeah.
I think it's just called YouTube. It's like a white and red book.
Literally just called YouTube?
Yeah.
Sick.
And but you can still take a lot from it. It tells you like how YouTube works, how it categorizes your content. So once I realized that the categorizing was like so important and how it does it, I was like, oh, I've been doing everything wrong. So I had to go and hide a whole bunch of my videos because they were essentially confused. YouTube was like, I don't really know what you're doing.
What are you doing?
It's outdoor, but it's not niche enough.
So they like to categorize you.
Yeah. So if they can categorize, if you have a niche and they can categorize you, they share you.
How interesting.
If they can't or they're a little bit confused, they don't push you.
Because the algorithm can't be targeted properly.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So I read that book, did that snow trip, and before I even posted those, I hid these other videos as I was bringing out the other snow videos, and it felt like it all just came together.
Wow, dude, that's cool.
And it hasn't stepped back from there.
That's really interesting. And so
it's really weird.
What would you say, very briefly,
Yeah.
because I know we'd probably be going for like hours,
Yeah.
but very briefly, what would you say your niche is?
Like outdoor, like sort of bush camping.
Okay,
Like
cool.
off-track bush camping.
All right.
Yeah.
And I have one last question, because I can see people looking at me going, wrap it up. But I could talk to this guy forever, so we're going to wrap it up. We'll have a beer and I'll keep
I'm really
asking
bad
you
at short
questions.
answers too.
It goes back to one of the first things you said while we were sitting here. Where do you think that sense of knowing you were meant for something different, where do you think that comes from?
Dude, if I knew the answer to that question, I reckon life would have been a lot more straightforward. All I can say is for anybody, and this doesn't just apply to young people, like I'm 36 now, you know what I mean? It's only been in the last few years that I've sort of worked this out. All I can say is, like, trust your own instincts and your passion and your drive to, like, sort of explore that realm, that area, will sort of shine above, like doing a certificate in something or whatever, because people will see that you're super keen and you'll have people reach out to help you who might be in the know. I feel like once I started this YouTube channel, I had people reaching out to me instead of the other way around. And it was because I was like, I feel like I'm on the right path. People see that you're doing something that you're meant to be doing, and everything just starts to come together. So trust the voice within your head and just go for it, because what have you got to lose apart from time, really?
Awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Awesome, really cool. Well, I appreciate you agreeing to sit down with me. It feels like a great privilege to be the person to help pick apart your life. I hope we get to do it more in some format, because we've only just touched the surface here.
Let's start a podcast, mate.
Guys?
No, shh.
Thank you, dude. I appreciate it. But if you want to know more about Mattsy, make sure you go and check out all his different socials and channels. He's got a lot of stories to tell. So, yeah.
Please do. Thanks, mate.
Thanks for letting us in.
Legend.
My hands are sweaty.
Yes, they are.